I told myself I wouldn't stay longer than 5 minutes. That was the promise I made while the cardboard box of her things rested on the passenger seat beside me like a silent accusation. 3 years of memories reduced to a faded hoodie, a few books with folded corners, a chipped mug that said, "Forever isn't long enough," and the silver bracelet I once saved up 2 months to buy. I had rehearsed the drop-off speech in my head the entire drive. Polite, distant, healed. I would hand the box to her, maybe exchange a stiff nod, and finally close the chapter that had been refusing to end. But when I pulled into the driveway, I saw her car wasn't there. The porch light was on, though, casting a soft glow across the white door I had knocked on so many times before. I swallowed, walked up, and knocked twice. The sound echoed louder than it should have in the evening quiet. Footsteps approached from inside, slow and unhurried, and when the door cracked open, my breath caught. Not because it was her, but because it wasn't. It was her mother, and she looked like she hadn't expected anyone. Her hair was slightly tousled, and she held the door only halfway open, wrapped in a loose robe that seemed hastily thrown on, as if I had interrupted something private and unfinished. For a moment we just stared at each other, both surprised in different ways. "Oh," she said softly, tightening her hold on the door but not closing it. "I didn't know it was you." My throat felt dry. "I just came to drop off her things." I lifted the box slightly as proof. She hesitated, then opened the door wider, stepping aside. "She's not home, but you can come in. I'll make sure she gets them." I should have declined. Every instinct told me to leave the box at the door and walk away. But something about her tone, gentle, almost sympathetic, made me step inside. The house smelled the same. Vanilla candles and polished wood. Memories pressed against my chest. She closed the door behind me and adjusted the robe more securely, though there was nothing inappropriate in the way she stood. Only an unexpected vulnerability that made the air feel heavier. "You look thinner," she observed, her voice softer now. "Breakups do that," I replied with a half-smile that didn't quite land. She gestured toward the living room. "Sit. You shouldn't rush off like a delivery driver after 3 years." I sat on the edge of the couch, the box resting on the coffee table between us like evidence in a trial. She took the armchair opposite me, studying my face with an intensity that felt almost maternal. Yet something else lingered beneath it. Concern, perhaps regret. "She didn't handle it well," she admitted quietly. I stared at the floor. Neither did I. Silence stretched, thick but not uncomfortable. Then she surprised me. "Do you want to know the truth?" she asked. I looked up. "About what?" She folded her hands in her lap. "About why she ended it the way she did." My heart tightened. For weeks I had replayed that final argument, trying to pinpoint the exact moment everything shattered. "I thought I already knew." She shook her head slowly. "You know what she told you. That's not the same thing." The room felt smaller. The ticking clock on the wall suddenly sounded louder. "She's scared," her mother continued. "Not of you, of settling, of choosing one path and wondering about the others. She thinks love is supposed to feel like a constant fireworks show. She doesn't understand that sometimes it's just a steady flame." I felt something twist inside me. Not anger, not quite sadness, but a bittersweet recognition. "So I was steady," I said. "You were safe," she corrected gently. "And safe feels boring to someone who hasn't been burned yet." Her words settled over me like rain on dust. For the first time, I didn't feel rejected. I felt understood. She leaned forward slightly. "You loved her well. I saw it. The way you fixed the sink without being asked. The way you listened to her talk about her dreams like they were already real. Don't let this make you doubt who you are." No one had said that to me before. Friends had offered distractions. My brother had offered anger. But here, in the quiet living room of the house I used to feel at home in, her mother offered something unexpected. Clarity. I stood slowly. "Thank you," I said, meaning it more than I expected. She walked me to the door. As she opened it, the cool evening air rushed in. She paused before I stepped out. "Sometimes," she said carefully, "closure doesn't come from the person who left. Sometimes it comes from the truth you choose to accept." I nodded, feeling lighter than when I arrived. As I walked back to my car, I realized I hadn't just dropped off a box of belongings. I had dropped off a version of myself that kept begging to be chosen. And for the first time, I wasn't angry. I was free. If you've ever had to let go of someone you thought would be forever, then you know how heavy a small cardboard box can feel. But sometimes the weight you carry back is lighter than the one you brought. And if this story speaks to you, if you've ever stood at someone's door hoping for one last answer, then make sure you subscribe to the channel, because some doors close and others open when you least expect it. Chapter 2. I didn't expect to see her mother again. After that night, I assumed our brief conversation would fade into memory like everything else tied to that house. But 2 weeks later, I received a message from an unknown number. It was short. "I found something else that belongs to you. I think you should pick it up yourself." No name. No explanation. Just an address I already knew by heart. I stared at the screen for a long time before deciding to go. Not because I was still clinging to the past, but because unfinished business has a way of echoing. When I knocked this time, I felt steadier. The door opened more promptly, and she stood there again, composed, dressed casually, nothing unexpected about her appearance. Yet there was still that same unreadable depth in her eyes. "Thank you for coming," she said. I stepped inside, noticing the house felt quieter than usual. "She moved out," her mother explained, answering my unspoken question. "New apartment. New start." I nodded. "I hope she finds what she's looking for." She studied me as if measuring the sincerity of that statement, then walked to the kitchen and returned with a small envelope. This was in her drawer. "It has your name on it." My pulse quickened as I took it. The handwriting was familiar, messy, rushed. I opened it carefully. Inside was a folded letter and a photo of us from our first trip together. Standing by the ocean, wind tangling our hair, both of us laughing at something the camera couldn't capture. My chest tightened as I unfolded the letter. It wasn't long. She wrote that she left because she felt herself growing dependent on a love she hadn't learned how to reciprocate properly. That she needed to figure out who she was without leaning on someone else's certainty. That I deserved someone who chose me without hesitation. I read it twice. It didn't fix everything, but it filled in the missing pieces. When I looked up, her mother was watching quietly. "She wrote that the night she ended things," she said. "But she didn't have the courage to give it to you." I exhaled slowly. "Why are you giving it to me now?" She smiled faintly. "Because you came back the first time not with anger, but with grace. That told me you deserved the truth." Something shifted in that moment. Not romance, not anything inappropriate. Just a profound sense of respect between two people connected by the same loss. "You know," she added thoughtfully, "breakups don't just end relationships. They reveal character. And you've shown yours." I slipped the letter back into the envelope. For weeks I had questioned my worth. Wondered if I wasn't exciting enough, bold enough, unpredictable enough. But standing there, I realized something simple and powerful. Love isn't about competing with possibility. It's about being present with certainty. I walked toward the door again, but this time there was no heaviness in my steps. "Take care of yourself," she said gently. And don't close your heart just because one person couldn't hold it. Outside, the sky stretched wide and open. I sat in my car for a moment, holding the envelope in my hands. The story I had been telling myself, that I wasn't enough, finally lost its grip. Sometimes closure doesn't arrive wrapped in apologies or second chances. Sometimes it comes in quiet envelopes and honest conversations you never expected to have. I started the engine, feeling something close to peace. And as I drove away from that house for what I knew would be the last time, I realized this wasn't a story about my ex at all. It was about growth, about learning that the right love won't make you question your value. If this chapter resonated with you, if you've ever searched for answers in the silence someone left behind, then subscribe to the channel and stay with us. Because the most powerful transformations don't happen when someone new walks into your life. They happen when you finally walk away stronger than you were before.